With the Betway Premiership teams preparing for the new season, it kicked off on the 1st of July. Clubs are obviously back in training for pre-season. And as expected, they've bolstered their squads with some new faces, some familiar faces as well. Meanwhile, this week, we learned of the sale of SuperSport United to Siwelele FC in a deal that is reportedly worth 50 million rand. So for more on this and other stories making headlines in the world of football, we are joined by Tiyani Mabasa. He's a football journalist, and he's also the founder of Unplayable, a publication. Thanks so much for joining me, Tiyani. It's been quite a while since the two of us have chatted, but I know you always have some interesting insight when it comes to the world of football. It's been making headlines. And before we get into some of the deal dynamics, you know, something that Mike Morton brought up, and I think even Simiso Msomi brought it up. What is happening in South Africa when it comes to clubs? It's almost as if they are tradable assets that can just be shifted from region to region, you know, like their stocks, forgetting about the regional fan base, forgetting about diluting the commercial interests of the club. It's something that's almost unheard of in Europe and in Brazil and South America. Maybe to a little, you know, to a lesser extent in the USA, where you can have something like Bloem Celtic, a club that's known for that region, you know, just being moved to another area. What do you make of this, Tiyani? It's quite strange, actually.
Yeah, very strange, you know, but I think we are used to it at this stage, but it's not something that should be happening, especially when you lose great clubs like Bloemfontein Celtic, you know, SuperSport United, you know, teams that, you know, have a great support, you know, and or teams that have done very well for South African football. It's quite sad. And maybe to look at the difference in terms of maybe the UK, you know, if Chelsea sell their club, it remains there in London.
Yes.
You know? The difference here at home is you sell Celtic and then they go to KZN. Who's going to support them in the KZN? You know, so it's very difficult. But I think some of the people that get into football and own football clubs, they really don't have the money for it. It's just a matter of they have the money to buy the club, but they don't have the money to sustain the club.
I suppose that's also been the concern. If you look at, you know, the players that have come through SuperSport United, I mentioned briefly earlier on Dane Clayt, Ronwen shared a post on his Instagram about coming through those academies as well. There's that youngster, I don't know how to say his surname correctly now though, Camden Shaper, who was signed from Blackburn to Chelsea for £700,000. He came through the SuperSport United academy structure. Have you chatted to Stan Matthews? Have you gotten some insight as to the trouble they were experiencing and how they're going to assure fans that they'll still keep those structures in place now that it becomes Siwelele FC?
I think in the end, you know, they just wanted to get rid of the club. You know, it was becoming a financial burden, and they were looking at making sure that heading into next season, it's not on their hands anymore. So it's down to you know, the financials at the end of the day. You know, which is very sad. You know, because we thought. A very stable club, a very good club. And if you see the reaction from their players, you can understand that this was no ordinary club, you know. So, you know, for me, it's down to money. You know, I hope, you know, people who come into football can actually have the money to sustain these clubs. You know, unfortunately, we're going to go through these sort of problems if people just come and go as they wish, you know, which is not great for South Africa. Yeah.
I think I actually need to bring you back to have a more in-depth conversation around this, because I believe that Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie has refuted personal involvement in the deal with his son, obviously taking over there. But you spoke about football being about big money. So let's look at some of the transfers. I saw Mike McCabe posting about Ethan Chislett and his dad. You worked with him many years ago. That's a signing there at Kaizer Chiefs. Obviously, we've been chatting on the show about Sipho Mbule joining Orlando Pirates, and obviously Oadu joining them as a coach as well. What do you make of these and any other standout transfers and signings that you want to shine the spotlight on?
Yeah, and quite interesting is the fact that, you know, we haven't seen anything from Mamelodi Sundowns yet. But
although apparently Reyners, you know, after the FIFA Club World Cup, he could be, you know, be in talks with some international clubs. Is that true? Have you heard anything in that regard?
Yeah, quite a lot of interest in Sundowns players, but unfortunately, you know, they are not a sailing club. So I don't expect much movement there in terms of exits, but I've seen great players, join other clubs here in the local league. Sipombole, you mentioned. Paris, they're already closing in on 15 signings. You can see it's some statement from them in terms of where they're going. You have also in Apolis there, a great player. Always expected him to move, and I'm glad that he's finally got his move. But you also look at Kaizer Chiefs as well. A lot is expected from them. As much as they've signed 6 players now, but they have to get more players. There are concerns in terms of the goalkeeping department, the concerns in terms of the centre back. So they still have a lot of work, to do. But so far, I think generally, PSL clubs have done very well to prepare for next season. And I think it's good going because, in the past, you'll have clubs signing players very late, but this time around, they're very early, and which is great for their preparations ahead of next season.
Perfect. We'll have to leave it there. Tiyani Mabasa, thank you so much for joining us. Always look forward to your insights there. It's just saying that Chiefs needs to do something within the defensive space, and that has been a comment that has come through time and time again in this previous season. What are they doing at the back? Although, it must be said that they do have the financial capacity when they can lure and encourage someone like Ethan Chislett, who's been playing in the UK, to come back and play at home. So let us know what you make of that and the other transfers that we were discussing, and also the story of SuperSport United losing that legacy that has brought up so many players.